My name is Jim Rugg. I am the creator of Hulk Grand Design, Street Angel, Aphrodisiac, and the Plain Janes, and you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Hello folks, welcome to 11 O'Clock Comics. This is episode 1001. I'm one of your hosts. My name is David A. Price, and with me, as always, is...
Of course, it is I, looking for my ball in perpetuity, Mr. Ken Takakura.
You are not Ken Takakura. You are, as everybody knows, Jason Wood. Welcome back, my friend.
Yes, sir. It's going to be weird, starting a whole new format now that we've got basically we're starting over. I mean, 1001, it's like the reset. So
yeah,
I can't wait for everyone to see what they think of our new format. We're going to have a very structured weekly show now. We're going to have
transcripts and timestamps. Yes,
5 different sections. Yeah. So everyone, stay tuned. But no, I'm doing good. I thought last week was absolutely phenomenal. It was the night itself was great. The reception, both the anniversary and the episode celebrating the anniversary got among the broader community was awesome and very very endearing and humbling. And but that's all in the past now. It's time to put our helmets back on and get back to work.
That's right. That's moving forward, looking to the future. Last week was an absolute blast. It was wonderful seeing everybody, listening to everybody, hearing what everybody had to say. Got some notes, little messages throughout the week. I want to thank everybody for those. It's just been it's been a while, but yeah, and now we can, aside from couple of cons we have coming up, we can look forward to now we can put all our energy towards those awesome O'Clockers. So we can start.
It's true.
We can start planning that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then right back on. Rinse, lather, rinse, repeat, the whole bang. This episode, as always, is sponsored by our good friend Max at cheapgraphicnovels.com, where you can find a ton of specials. Even right now, there is a DC Big Book sale going on. There's a couple hundred DC collections like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and Absolutes out the wazoo. You've got the Nightwing Omnibus by King and Seeley. You've got the there was the hell did I see? You got New Frontier. You've got all the Planetaries. You've got Authority, like anything, a ton of Batman stuff. So definitely check that out. There are specials that were posted to the Slack on top of that, the weekly specials. But there's also comic book history of the Cocktail hardcover, $22.49. There's no better writer to tell the colorful I haven't had any yet, colorful history of cocktails than David Wondrich, widely considered to be one of the world's foremost authorities on cocktails and a driving force behind the early 21st century revival in the classic American art of mixing drinks. Teaming up with Wondrich is comics artist Dean Koontz to trace the evolution of the cocktail. I said Koontz before. I believe it's Kotz. Kotz's intricate, masterful drawings Thank you. Illustrate stories that have never been properly told and introduce key characters who haven't yet received their due. Nearly 30 recipes round out this spirited account, featuring accurate versions of old classics and a generous selection of secret weapons from the mixologist's vest pocket. So settle in with your libation of choice and prepare to meet the good, the bad, and the boozy in this lively and jam-packed tale. This one's for you. Kid Maroon graphic novel, $18.74, back in
Yes,
print for the
sir.
first time in over 75 years. The world's
5 years old. I love that.
the world's only, I didn't know Santos was that old. The world's only hard-boiled boy detective, Kid Maroon. From the shared genius of Christopher Cantwell and Victor Santos comes an all-new Kid Maroon graphic novel featuring the rich history of Pep Shepard's beloved boy detective, including strips long considered lost to time. 2 years ago, Walden Maroon outgrew his small town, his loving parents, and the low-stakes mysteries involving missing butterflies and stolen cookies. Since then, he's dwelled within the cesspit of Crimeville, where murders, vice, and corruption are the city's bread and butter. But at 12 years old, Kid is weary. When a string of horrific killings and arsons spring up in the streets, can he crack the case with his quick wits and slingshot? Or does Kid Maroon secretly yearn for what he's never gotten to be, a kid? And finally, this one's for both of us. Rare Flavors Deluxe Edition hardcover, $22.49. Discover the tantalizing tale of Reuben Bash, a demonic Rakshasa with a down-to-earth dream of being the next Anthony Bourdain. To achieve his vision, Reuben enlists Mo, a filmmaker who has seen better days, to document the world-renowned cuisine of India and the people behind such glorious food. But little does Mo know, there's more to Reuben than meets the eye, and the mortals play a darker role in the show than they were prepared for. Entice your palate and feast on the follow-up offerings from the Eisner, Harvey, and Ringo Award-nominated The Many Deaths of Lila Star team of Ram V and Felipe Andrade, with the acclaimed masterpiece collected into a single deluxe hardcover edition that collects the 6-issue miniseries.
All over it.
Yeah, that is a good tale. I think, I think I'd like to get that. I am interested in the Kid Maroon too. But yeah, that history of cocktails is something I need to check out. But
no doubt.
That is it for the specials for this week. We can get right into it. What have you been reading? I mean, I know I saw the
Well,
news, but...
dear listeners, I got good news for some of you and bad news for others. For those of you that are just milquetoast plain vanilla folk, you just like your straight down the middle, by the numbers, classic comic book stuff that we talk about, I ain't got nothing for you. Got nothing, not a zilch, zip, zippo. But if you're freaks, if you like living in the darker places of the world, if you like your mind to wander into things that just aren't quite right, but you kind of like them anyway, if you like that transgressive genre, then I got all of it for you this week. Because everything I read and am prepared to talk about that we're not collaborating on, I should put that caveat out because we did read some things together, are transgressive AF.
Nice.
It was just that kind of week. It was that kind of week. I got a couple of things in the mail, and they seem to have an unintentional theme, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go with it. So I'll start off with one that I suspect either you did order or will read at some point, and the one that's most timely because it's certainly from a publisher that we have become, I think, synonymous with in terms of the coverage that it receives. We talk about every one of their books, and I don't know that too many other podcasts of import do the same. And that publisher, of course, is Living the Line. And the book, of course, is My Gorilla Family and Other Stories of Human Horror by Iijima Ichiro. We shouldn't need to sell our listeners on Living the Line. We've talked about just about every book they've put out over the last few years, and have been in particularly enamored with their Smudge line of basically alternative, lesser-known manga. And this is the latest in that. The book, as you can imagine, it's called My Gorilla Family. It is a bunch of stories of basically, if there's a commonality between them, it's that they involve some kind of relationship and really fucked up body horror. That's basically the through line of them.
Yeah.
But like many of these Smudge books, it's an anthology collecting different short stories by Ichiro-san, published through a bunch of different Japanese alt magazines over the years. And it's interesting because the the title story, My Gorilla Family, to me is neither the most transgressive nor the most interesting of the stories. I mean, it's cool, but to me, it's very much a kind of like on the nose play on class and the idea of being forced into marrying someone you're not attracted to for the sake of bettering yourself and your family, your extended family status. Which is something that's, I mean, that tale's as old as time, right? It's in like any like Game of Thrones, like any medieval story. Like it's a classic idea of like being forced to marry someone you don't love, and that's what that's about. Only that instead of it just being like a brutish, ugly human, it's a gorilla, and so it kind of like amps up the extremity of the visuals because they show her being like the bride being repulsed by him, but then them having sex, and this is a very explicit book. This is definitely not for the kiddos. This is hard R stuff. Genitalia, sex, violence, all that stuff. But the story was good. It was good, but there are definitely other stories I thought were way crazier. The first story in the book is called Spider Horror, and the opening page of the book is a naked, big-breasted woman, kind of splayed legs and arms akimbo on a spider web, and then you get into it, and essentially she's walking through the park with her lover, and a spider drops down from a tree, and she brutally, like, instead of just like swatting it away or walking away, she takes the spider and lights it on fire, and then she stomps it, like in a very cruel act, and a sadist, if you will. And even her boyfriend's like, "What the fuck? Like, you didn't have to do that. That's crazy." And then, of course, because why not? They immediately go from dismantling this giant spider to him grabbing at her breasts in the middle of this park and ripping her shirt open, and just going at it. He starts going down on her, like right in the middle of this park, and they just have wild sex. But of course, while they're having sex, another spider may or may not have crawled onto her person. And then in classic, horror Twilight Zone fashion, things seem normal for a while, and they're back at their crib, and it's time to fool around again. And he's, they disrobe, and he's basically, comes up behind her, and he's like kind of moving his hands all around her, and then all of a sudden he puts his fingers where they need to be, and he pulls them back, and he's like, "What the?" And he looks, and on his fingers are little tiny spiders. And here's the quote of the night, Dap. The quote is in this page. It says, "Why are there spiders in your pussy?" and then she's like, "I don't know." And the next thing you know, spiders burst through all orifices of her body, and of course, with the idea being that the spider had gone inside of her vagine in that park and laid eggs, and then this is the consequence. And that's the kind of stuff that you get in this book. Now, I don't want to ruin all the other stories because I want people to enjoy them themselves, but there's a spacefaring one about a naked woman, or a bunch of astronauts land on a planet, and they discover a bunch of beautiful naked women who want to basically pleasure them, but all is not what it seems, of course. There's a super, like, absolutely batshit crazy story. It's called The End of Earth, which is an interesting title for it, but it's just a dude walking, and he's walking in, like, just, instead of walking what looks to be a dog, it's this strange, like, foreign-looking alien creature. It kind of looks like a fish, although the tail looks more like a tentacle. It's got one eye. It's got, like, strange lips that almost kind of look like a vagine, and then people are freaked out by it, and then they discover, like, that this thing is not what it seems, and hijinks ensue, and then on and on. There's a story that's basically about the devil, and courting a really beautiful woman, but this devil is like a gigantic horned dude, and he's kind of a hornball, and it's interesting, man. Like, I have to say that the thing about Ichiro is he clearly loves drawing very voluptuous, naked, beautiful women having sex, because that's very common in all of these stories. I'm not mad at that. And these are, by design, silly, puerile, surface level horror stories. I don't think he's stretching your mind here. He's not making you think about deeper thoughts. This is just meant to shock and awe and titillate and scare you. And that's what I think it does it really effectively. So, by now, we shouldn't need to convince y'all that Living the Line is worth your attention. But if for some reason you don't remember us ever mentioning him before, remember him now. Living the Line, My Gorilla Family, and Other Stories of Human Horror by Iijima Ichiro.
That sounds wild. Yeah, I do. It's on the wish list. I pulled the trigger on it. We've enjoyed everything that they've sent us to read, and yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy Living the Line exists because I don't know. They're filling a void that I didn't know I had in my life, but I'm glad they're there to tell these stories that I pretty much would never be exposed to, because it's not like I'm going looking for these, but if now that I know that they're there, it's like right in the peripheral vision. It's not something I'm always looking for, but it's right there, and I like their work a lot. I'm glad they're there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can bring some of the humdrum, tried and true, what we
I knew you could
typically run to, but that's because I was in a mood because I was thinking about heroes, and I was thinking about the wonderful conversation I was having with Mr. Joe Kelly, and I was like, I'm a couple of issues behind on Amazing Spider-Man, because the last thing I was reading was this Hellgate arc that JR was drawing, and during that arc, Peter was basically Spider-Man got his ass handed to him. He got clobbered, and he couldn't overcome. And the last thing we saw at the end of that issue, before everything went black, was Hellgate telling Spider-Man, get stronger. And the next issue, issue 9, written by Joe Kelly, guest artist Michael Dowling, we start with Peter just walking to Rand Industries with a boot on his because he was injured during the fight, and he's just walking to work, and he's whistling on all this, and he's everything looks like everything's fine, except there's a slight possible kind of change in attitude, because on his way to work, the Shocker is causing a ruckus in the middle of the city, and Peter's just like, and Peter stops and is looking at the Shocker, and Shocker's like, "What, are you going to do something tough, guy?" And Peter's like, "Nope, not me." Puts his earbuds in and is listening to the J. Jonah Jameson podcast, and just gets on the subway so he can go to work. And he and his boy Brian, who got him the job at Rand, is they're doing their little corny shtick, because they're dealing with mushrooms, and even though the presentation's pretty impressive, they still go through the little childlike shenanigans. But the boss is impressed, everybody's happy, and but Peter seems to be a bit short with Brian, and kind of think nothing of it, because I'm reading it and I'm like, well, Peter just had his ass handed to him. Like, he's just, there's something going on in his head. He's not his quippy, lovable self, but I mean, there was a lot going on. So, he's leaving work, and Norman Osborn is there, and he wants to talk to him, and he's telling him, like, listen, it's been a minute since Spider-Man's been seen after the whole incident with Hellgate, and and Norman's just like, Spider-Man needs to return. And as I'm going through this now, like there were clues that were present, but in the moment I kind of just glossed over them. But while Norman is telling Peter Spidey needs to come back, Peter's like, yeah, you know what, I'm working on it, and Norman's kind of just, Norman doesn't, something's not right here, and he's like, have you even talked to your aunt lately? And Peter brushes away, and he's like, just don't bother me at work again, Norman, and goes about his business. And then we do cut to Aunt May, who she's talking about how she hasn't heard from Peter, and her paramour, or some dude who's sweet on her, his name is Ricardo. He kind of thinks that Peter's doing drugs, and he's like, you know, listen, I had it was either his niece had her struggles, and you know, in the family, and blah blah blah, and the intervention, and this, that, and the other, and May's like, you know, that's not it, and it's just, you know, I just need you to, I need some space, and your heart's in the right place, I know what you're doing, but that's not what this is. You don't quite understand, and so the Shocker is now working for Tombstone, and while they're having that conversation, Peter goes to his apartment, and Mary Jane is there. And she's waiting in the hallway for him. And she's just like, listen, your aunt sent me over. She's worried about you. And he's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But when he gets there and he sees her, he's on the phone. And he says, hey, let me call you back later, hun. And hangs up with this person. And MJ's like, well, I'm sure hun isn't May. But Peter's like, listen, I know what you're here for. You can just send me a text next time. I it's cool. And she's like, yeah, but May sent me here, but there's also something else going on. We need to talk about me, about us. I wanted to tell you for a long time, but I was afraid. And then you had that huge fight with Hellgate. And you're my friend always, but I need my friend. And that's when we get the huge, well, if you're not reading Venom or you're behind on anything, we get the full page reveal of MJ and Venom being the same. So Peter's just kind of staring at everything, looking at the two of them together, and he kind of chuckles, and he goes, yeah, the way you were teeing this whole thing up, I thought you wanted us to get back together, but and as he turns around and walks away, Mary Jane's like, why are you leaving? And he's like, yeah, you two deserve each other, and he slams the door on MJ's face. And while later that night, Randy Robertson and Shay, who's currently Peter's girlfriend, or one of them, they're talking about Peter when the Shocker and his Aftershock crew show up and start wreaking havoc. And this new hero on the scene, Captain Kintsugi, he decides to try to save the day. That really doesn't go all that well. He's about to get his ass kicked. But then all of a sudden, a spiderweb comes, grabs one of the Aftershockers, throws him up into a lamppost, and Spider-Man is just wailing on these dudes. Like, no holding back, like just as if he's fighting the Hulk practically. And we get an image of Spider-Man that looks... It's Spider-Man. It's kind of the red and blues, but he's wearing these, like, the web shooters are on the outside, almost looking like bracelets, and he's also got like he's got like supports on his ankles, almost like they're ankle monitors, but the ankles and the wrists all have these kind of almost look like they're web shooter cartridge holders. So we find out that Spidey's a bit violent, and he's just really not pulling any punches.
So like did he get red kryptonite or something?
It seems like it. It really does. And I was for a minute.
Okay.
And this is me giving Joe Kelly the benefit of the doubt, because I'm like, I don't, I've had plenty of Spider-Man stories where Spidey isn't quite himself, or they're trying to shake things up and give us a new Spider-Man. And Black Cat knows that something's amiss, She's got a sense, which is wild to me because I've always Black Cat in the 80s, she was introduced, and shortly after that, whether it was in the Spectacular Spider-Man series or even in the Amazing, Black Cat had a crush on Spider-Man. That's all she cared about. She had feelings for Spider-Man at any time, even if they were having lunch and he pulls his mask up just to show his face, his mouth, like she didn't want to see that. She wanted, like, and anytime she knew that it was Peter Parker, she's just like didn't nothing to do with it. So for her to know that something is up, that's a sign. So we should definitely pay attention to Black Cat. And while Peter's going about his business, Tombstone pulls up in his limo and he's like, "Hey, I need you to get in." And Peter's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm done playing your messenger. I'm not fucking around with this. You can go find somebody else to do your dirty work. I'm not it." And he's like, and so one of Tombstone's goons is gonna like come up behind Peter and like throw him in the limo. And he's like, "Listen, I'm trying to be a pal. Like, I want to talk privately, and Frankie is out on parole, and I wouldn't want anything to happen to him where he breaks." And instead of saying, like, because you think he's going to say, breaks your legs, Peter backhands him, and he's like, "Oh, his nose? Oh, that's too late." And Tombstone's like, "Boy, are you mentally ill?" And Peter's just like, "I am out. You have to understand. I'm not doing this. We're done. Like, I don't know what you want, but you're not getting it from me." He's like, "So tell your story walking, Tombstone." And he turns around, he walks away, and Black Cat sees this from a distance, and she's like, "Well, that's different." And back at work, Peter and Brian's still Brian. He's doing his goofy shit, and the boss comes in. Dr. O.M. shows up, and she's like, "Listen, I got something to take care of, Peter. I need you to run things while I'm out, and we'll touch base when I get back." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm your man. Don't worry about it. We're all good." But Brian's all like, "No, man, I thought I'd be it, and she's like, "No, you need to work on your shit so that it catches up to where Peter already is, so everything's meshed together and we're good to go." So while Peter's walking home, the Shocker attacks because Tombstone sent his goon out for him. And while that happens, Black Cat shows up. She interferes a little bit, and then Spider-Man swoops down. And again, so it's beaten. I mean, he webs Shocker, like twirls him around, and slams him into the concrete. And Shocker's like, I felt something break. And Black Cat's like, telling Spider-Man, "You gotta back up. We can't. Like, this isn't you." And Shocker's like, "Listen, can you help me up?" And Spider-Man grabs him by the wrist and breaks his wrist. And he's just like, and then he webs away, and he brings Shocker to Tombstone and drops him off. And Tombstone's like, "Okay, well, message received. This is a new era. All right then." And then the last page of this particular issue, Spider-Man lands on a rooftop, and someone says, I think it's time we had a talk." And Spider-Man and Peter Parker are face to face. And I'm like, "All right, Joe Kelly, you got me.
Yeah,
I gotta see,
all right.
gotta see where this is going." And it's been an amazing ride. And
No pun
so
intended.
our Peter, yes, our Peter, the Peter we know and love, the Spider-Man who was beat the shit out of by Hellgate, he's in space. Because that was the last thing that happened. When Hellgate hit him, he basically transported him to a whole other dimension. Not necessarily dimension, but he's not on Earth. So there's so spoilers. Black Cat figures out that Peter is not Peter. It's actually Ben Reilly. And Ben explains that there was there was an absence. There was a disturbance in the force. Basically, as soon as Peter zapped away, Ben knew something was up. So he's here to fill the void, and he's here to basically make sure Peter's life isn't fucked up for if and when Peter ever returns. So that's what Ben's doing as far as Peter. But Spider-Man, you want to know who Spider-Man is?
Wait, I'm confused. Are you not you? Because you've been saying a lot.
I have, yeah.
I thought you just said that Spider-Man was Ben Reilly.
No. Spider-Man, when Spider-Man, after he fucked up Shocker and was heading home and landed on that roof, Spider-Man was face to face with, we now know, Ben Reilly. So there's someone being Spider-Man and there's someone being Peter Parker. Two different people.
Okay, so there's two interferers.
Yes. Two people are picking up the slack.
I'll say Miles.
No, although Miles was in a recent issue because Miles was like, bro, you're not Spider-Man. What the hell's going on?
Okay. One more guess. I'll say, let's see, who would it be? Kane.
No, but that is a good guess. No, it's someone. It's someone who's been in almost every issue of this series so far. It's Norman Osborn.
Norman. Oh, there you go.
He's trying
Which is why
to be
he's
better.
wearing the Fakakta stuff on the outside because it's
Yes.
all
Yeah, because he needs.
Okay, right.
He needs the spider strength.
Got it. Yeah,
because he doesn't have the spider sense. So that was when someone else figured something out that, like, listen, you can't. You're getting a sneak attack, and so you don't have the spider sense. You're not Spider-Man. Who the hell are you? And the only time, so the readers know Norman is being Spider-Man right now, and members of the Spider family now know, because when Miles and Silk and Aranya and Spider-Boy, they show up to confront Spider-Man, and they're like, you're not acting right, what's going on? And he's kind of messing up all the kids. Norman's fighting back. He's pulling his punches, but he's not. He's like, listen, I don't have time for this. I'm doing this for Spider-Man. Don't worry about it. And then when he starts yoking up Miles, Ghost Spider shows up, and he recognizes the voice, and that's when Norman breaks down. He's just like, "Oh shit, it's Gwen," and he's just and he gets a flashback, and he's just like, he mentally resets. He's like, he remembers why he's doing this, and he's just like, and he comes clean to the kids, and they're like, all right, if as long as you're on the up and up, you're doing this for the right reasons. Like, we're not going to interfere. The world's going to think that, Spider-Man is still here in New York, and the world keeps turning. And while New York is being handled, we see Space Spider, who Peter he ends up on this rock of a planet, and he gets rescued. And I'm not going to spoil that story. That really doesn't go the way Peter was expecting, but it looks like he's going to meet some familiar faces, like the Rocket Raccoon for one. So and it looks like Pepe is going to be maybe drawing the space stuff, which looks fucking amazing. So after the couple of issues we had of the guest artist Michael Dowling, JR comes back to take care of the Earth stuff. Pepe took care of the space stuff, and that's where we are for now. But it's
Ed McGuinness is the new artist on the book.
He is, yeah. He did the most recent issue, right. But I think the cover to 13 is drawn by Pepe. I don't know if he's doing the interiors, but because I don't know if, I like the idea of a different artist handling different aspects of the title, but the Ed stuff, the
Pepe is on 13, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, the Ed stuff looked a little. I miss
Ed
Dexter.
is 14, so Ed is replacing JR, so I'm not mad at that.
Okay, no, that's fine, and
yeah.
And we got the McGuinness issue. The inkers are Ed himself and Cliff Rathburn. which
Nice.
is neat.
Okay, good. Yeah.
But it's not. It does look a little. It's definitely not Mark Farmer. It's definitely not Dexter Vines. It's you. Ed is. You can see Ed McGuinness in the line work, but it's just not as pronounced as I'm used to seeing. And the JRJR issue or the story from the previous issue, it almost looked like it kind of reminded me of the days when McGuire was drawing books and Chris Sotomayor was doing the coloring, and Chris was kind of doing. It almost seemed as though he was doing the heavy lifting, like as if McGuire was kind of just doing breakdowns. And everything else was getting filled in by the colorist. The Romita Jr. stuff reminded me of that because some faces weren't as filled in. Things just looked a little. Some pages were great, some panels were awesome, but there were a lot of panels that just looked like John wasn't really finishing everything. So I don't know if it's a time issue, if it's a speed issue. Because there do seem to be a lot of amazing issues one after another. So that might just be time to ratchet back a little bit so that he's not on something that's coming out so hot and heavy. But Ed did a great job with drawing Spidey, drawing Norman as Spider-Man, drawing the action scenes. I like the Ed stuff a lot. So if that's the new creative team for the time being, then that's absolutely fine. But whatever hesitation I had after taking a small break from Spidey for a couple of issues, Joe brought me back. It's been wild. I had no idea where he was kind of going with this, but I'm glad we're here, and we were saying when the series started that it was nice to be reading Amazing again. It was a lot of fun, and Joe seems to be having a blast. So I know we've teased the idea of having him on so we can talk about things. And now that we've got almost a year of this series, might be a good time to reach out to him. But yeah, I wasn't expecting where we were going, but I'm glad we're here, and I'm excited to see where he's taking it after this. But it's been fun. So yeah,
nice. Yeah, I'm through issue 8, I think so.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that was the end of the Hellgate arc.
Yeah. All right, cool. Bet. Well, we have one thing we definitely can collab on because we talked about it 2 weeks ago because you saw that I read it, and then you said hold your horses on that because I'm a dust off my issues and read it.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about it, and that is Breathtaker, which is by the creative team of Marc Wheatley and Marc Hempel. Marc with a K and Marc with a C, for those that care. And Dap was gobsmacked when I put this on our list that we share about what we read, because he was like, wait, you read Breathtaker? He's like, is this the same Breathtaker from like the 1990s? And I said, yeah. I said, they just, like 2 months back, Titan solicited a hardcover collection of it. I had never read it in the 90s, and, I'm always checking out what Titan has, and it looked pretty decent. I like the premise, and I thought, okay, I'll check it out. So you were like, oh, shit. Well, I got the issues from some such con. I forget what con, but just sitting here waiting to be read. I believe you read it back in the 90s, but to reread it. And here we are. So the solicit is as follows. Chase Darrow had this crazy idea that the government should not be deciding how she should live her life. But now the NSA has sent their lead agent after her. He is known only as the Man, and his toxic masculinity is as ramped up as is his strength and agility. The government is frightened by Chase. They gave her the code name of Breathtaker because she was born with the power to love a man to death. Chase Darrow might be the only real living psychic vampire. So you could tell with the solicit, right? You talk about psychic vampire. Yes, psychic vampires are different than trad vampires, but I got a thing for the vampirism. I think succubus stories can be cool. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna try this out, and try it out. I did. I honestly don't ever remember hearing a peep about this book in the 90s when it was coming out. Like, I had no idea it existed, so I don't know how it was received back then, if it was a hit. I mean, the fact that it took 25, 30 years to come back around and came out through Titan tells me it probably wasn't a massive hit, because then it probably would have gotten solicited by now at a bigger publisher. But when did you first read it?
I didn't read it in its entirety. It was one of those. Yeah, it wasn't. It was on my radar. I never owned the issues. I flipped through it at the shop, but it wasn't. It was just something that, because I do like the creators. I like the Marcs. I'm a fan of their work, and especially when they were working on when the Johnny Quest series from Kamiko was first coming out, like every issue was done by a different creative team, and eventually, after about a year or so, they were the artists on the book, and so I'm familiar with that. They had a book from Eclipse called Warp, but when I saw that DC was publishing a 4-issue miniseries, I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out. I never got a chance to get the issues, but I did see it. And then a year or two ago, I'm pretty sure it was at Heroes, when I found the 4 issues. I snatched them up, and they like a whole bunch of other piles around the room of stuff from cons that still need to be read. Once I saw that was on your list, I ran for the pile and dug them out. So this way I could finally read something that I've been meaning to for decades. But yeah, but no, please continue.
I mean, the thing about this that I think will make or break for most people is the art, right? This Hempel's illustration style is very distinctive. I guess you don't need to say very when you say distinctive, because it's kind of a you're doubling up on the same idea, but it's distinctive. It's one of those books where as soon as I opened it up, I thought, I could see that this is kind of art that Dap loves. I was like, he's gonna love this art, because this could be, we could have seen Hempel do a run on like a Grendel or something. Like, it would have fit right.
Oh yeah.
I think. It's for those that aren't familiar with his work, it's amorphous at times, super exaggerated angular faces, big expressive eyes, sort of like I'm trying to think, like, who else we can compare. I mean, who else would you say he looks like, to give people an idea? Like, I'm trying to think who
Rick
else,
Geary.
Yeah, that's good.
Not quite Sam Keith. Like a cleaner, younger Sam Keith.
Yeah, Sam Keith is way harsher, like
these days,
like, yeah. But that school of thought, right? Like, not also kind of like homeboy from X Factor. What's his name?
Strowman.
Yeah, like same school, I think. Like, with the exaggerated anatomy and the
especially with the thin lines. Yeah, with Strowman, like, and right, thin angular lines, like outlines, and then and this book in particular, again, because I don't know what Hempel's work looks like in other places, but this is an action-packed book. Basically, she's on the run from the man and the government throughout it, and she's kind of jumping from hideout to hideout, and is nearly getting captured and escaping, and there's lots of action, and she's also a succubus, so there's lots of scenes of her literally, like, fucking men to death. So he has a lot to work with visually. Like, there's stuff happening of consequence all the time. There's not a lot of talky, at least not too much. So his style really, I think, works well here versus like I couldn't really necessarily see him like crushing it with a Bendis book or something. So love the premise. Really thought the art was intriguing. I think the art carried me through it, but I didn't find the story itself all that gripping. I think part of the problem, though, is that maybe when this came out, it seemed a little edgier, but we live in a much different world now. So, like, some of the concepts of, like, the man and how, like, toxic he is, and like the over exaggeration of his masculinity, like, I guess it just feels a little like
on the nose now. Like, I mean, because it's a caricature that we've seen a million times. And while I thought the way they handled her power and how it was a curse much more than a gift was very interesting and well done many times throughout the story, but I didn't find her particularly interesting beyond her power. Like, she seemed to be pretty vapid and lost otherwise. Like, she didn't really have purpose. She didn't have agency in her own life, I guess, is what I was what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so like, I enjoyed it very much. I think Titan did a really nice job with the packaging. It's a really nice hardcover. I think the art definitely carries the day and made it a worthwhile experience. But I wouldn't say I loved the story. Like, I didn't close the book thinking, oh damn, now that was a yarn. I thought, okay, yeah, like, the book is basically her on the run because she kills people by fucking them, and it's like, okay, I get it. So I don't know, what did you think of the story itself? I mean, obviously the art I'm sure you loved.
Oh, the art definitely was that's what I was all about. The first, when I see you next month, I need to find out. I need to flip through. Well, I need to get to the. I need to flip to the end of your copy, because the 4 issues came out, and then a couple of years later, 3 or 4 years later, DC published a collection. Funnily enough, the introduction is written by Gaiman, and the trade, Marc and Marc decided to redo the final pages, and my last page, the trade, it looks like the trade has an extra page to kind of, I guess, maybe in case there's any confusion about how the story ended, they wanted to make sure that there was nothing so crazy, and it was pretty. So I want to find out if your collection, if Titan republished the 4-issue miniseries, or if they redid the trade that DC published in '94. That aside, I don't. If it was just a story about Chase, and we wouldn't have needed 4 issues, but I probably would have enjoyed that. But yes, then and what also kind of at the time, sure, we're introduced to a to the project that, of course, kind of gave birth, for lack of a better term, to Chase, and because of what her mother had gone through, and to a degree the man, if that story was being told today, we'd have a whole other side story on that project and how many others may have been involved in it, and we would have been maybe seen some of those characters, but it was practically not quite glossed over, but they explained that that's how Chase came to be. But it almost felt like, as I'm reading, like, I think it was the 3rd issue it was in, it didn't bring the story to a halt, but like we were in a groove, and story wise it was fine, because it gave us a time. It gave Chase a chance to kind of get settled after escaping again, and so we had we could change scenes and focus on another character. But it didn't. Looking back on it kind of detracted for me, and I much would have rather have just read the story about Chase and her dealing with what she's going through, and the fact that she isn't trying to kill men or kill anybody. It just, unfortunately, happens, the side effect. But then we got bogged down with the man, and of course his drama with Agent Nardo, and it's just like it was almost, it wasn't a distraction, but I didn't really want it, even though I know it was there for a reason, and it was the opposite of what Chase was dealing with. But it was more of a speed bump for me. But overall, I mean, I'm impressed with it, because it's a great between Hempel's drawings and Wheatley's paintings, and I like the look of the book. But yeah, it definitely reminds me of. It was it was edgy. It was something that was exciting and new and different in the late 80s, early 90s. So it was for that. It's great. I'm glad, it's getting kind of a little bit of a revival with 35 years, and Titan put out a hardcover, and the Marcs are going to be guests at Baltimore. So they are trying to make people aware of it, which is great. But yeah, I don't want to say it hasn't aged well, but it's something that, especially after, you read something by Living the Line, and yeah, it's something like this isn't going to be edgy these days. Or at least unless you understand that at the time this was something new and not everything was like this, whereas now it's
yeah, we live in the world of the edgelords now, right? Whereas
yeah.
Back then, maybe not so much. To your point on the collection, yeah, a couple things. One, the intro of this collection is actually by Walt.
Nice.
So they swapped out Gaiman for Walt. That's a nice karmic swap, I think.
I agree.
And this book has, I believe, it collects the trade, and it also has a never before seen complete issue of Make Way for the Man, the comic that the Man was in.
Oh wow!
In the meta. Yeah, so and then there's interviews with both of them. There's a bunch of back matter, early drawings, early rendering pages, scripts. So it's a nice collection. Like I said, Titan did a really nice job with it. So yeah, so good job all around there for sure. And it was also an Indiegogo. This I believe was an Indiegogo campaign. So there's a page as well with the Indiegogo backers listed. So yeah, really nice. Like they did a nice job with all the. There's lots of ephemera for those of you that dig that stuff.
Well, if they're scribbling in them at Baltimore, maybe I'll pick up the hardcover.
You know what? You can have mine, and you can get it signed by them.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I ain't turning that down.
Because I read it, I enjoyed it. I don't need it on my shelves. Like it's not.
Okay.
It didn't connect with me that hard. So you can I'll bring it to Baltimore, and on our way, just remind me when we get ready to go, and I'll make sure you have it in your bag to chat with your heart's content with the Marcs.
Thank you.
Yes. Mazel tov, my friend.
Oh.
Right.
Put these 4 issues in a box and put it back in the closet.
That's right. That's right.
What else we got?
Well, I'll mention this because this is a tip of the cap to our Boo, who's not here this week. Vinny Beats. He's talked about both volumes of this already, but in homage to my all transgressive all the time promise this evening, I finally opened up out of the shrink wrap and read both Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Dementia 21. Yes, Vince has discussed these at length over the years. Let me see if I can quickly look up what episodes here. Hold on. Or maybe you can. Let me see. Sorry, it's good radio when you're typing away on a live broadcast, but I didn't think to look. Let's see, Dementia 21. Fortunately, we have all of our episodes. So Vince talked about the second volume on episode 924. And I don't see quickly where the first one was. I do know he spoke about it, though, whenever that came out a few years ago. But this is Shintaro Kago's wild manga that is published here through Fanta Graphics. And again, I don't want to relitigate what Vince has already done deep dives on, but in essence, I guess you could say it's horror manga, but it is horror, but it's not like scare the shit out of you horror. It's more like the world's a bizarre and fucked up place kind of horror, I guess. It's also different than like a lot of horror anthologies in that this is one recurring main character. You know, like it's not the whole premise is that you've got a home healthcare provider, Yuki Sakai, and she's a like a home nurse or home nurse aide, and she's the best. She's the best at what she does, and she's just nice and sweet, and all the old people that she takes care of love her. And they have this system in this company where literally, as she's caring for these folks at home, her and her coworkers, like at the end of their session, there's a little like, little device, little like terminal, kind of like you see in the bathrooms with the happy face, sad face thing. And she says, like, could you please kindly like rate my service today? And she's always top of the, like, of all the homemaids in the company, she's always at the top. So she's number one, and she gets bonuses, and she's got a nice salary and everything. And her number two, the number two girl, is pissed. She's pissed that she can never be number one, and she's also a conniver, and she happens to be sleeping with one of the executives of the company. And she's like, listen, I'm so sick of losing to Yuki Sakai. Like, what can you do? How can you help me? Or I'm going to tell your wife that we're fucking. So he says, well, he's like, it's real-time feedback, so I can't, like, mess with that. But I could probably, gin up some fake complaints, some. And so that's what happens. He throws a bunch of complaints into the system that are fake. And the CEO says, Yuki, I don't know what's happened, but suddenly your service is terrible. People don't want to deal with you. They're canceling their contracts. You're going to lose your job. And then that's kind of all the setup for these two volumes, where the premise is, she says, I'll do anything to disprove this. Give me another chance. And he says, okay. And he basically sends her to the toughest client that they have. And she then goes through, and then pretty much every story is a serial of that, where she goes to some kind of home healthcare situation that is fucked up and supernatural, and she has to deal with it. And then it's kind of like a cartoon, where the next chapter, no matter what happens to her in the prior one, she's magically back to being healthy and just ready to go about her business, going to work again. And again, Vince has covered a lot of this, but like, there's just lots of different crazy vignettes. Again, much like you would see in any of these worlds where different weird shit happens. There's probably my favorite in the volumes, which I think was volume 2, was there's one where Santa Claus has dementia, and so he starts like giving little kids rocket launchers and shit, and she has to deal with that chaos, which is awesome. There's one where diapers that old folks have to wear are possessed and start taking over the world. There's just crazy shit like that. There's one where like kind of like a classic kaiju story where, like, one of the old people manifests into a giant kaiju, and it's just a ton of different, like, just different, I guess, monsters of the week type of a vibe. And Yuki's a very lovable, easy to root for heroine, and the art is wonderfully transgressive. It's gruesome and body horror at its best, and just great stuff. So again, if you want a much deeper, more eloquent dive, check out episode 924. But I just wanted to shout it out because I finally did open these babies up and read them, and they're great. And Fantagraphics has 2 sales every year, so if you don't buy the Fanta stuff when it's first solicited, you can usually get it for a very nice deal on their site directly. And usually they have one coming up in November, if I'm not mistaken. So just put this on your radar. And if you're in the mood to pick up some awesome stuff from Fanta, and you're always wondering, like, what should I get? What's worth it? I think Dementia 21 Volumes 1 and 2 are very much worth your time.
Nice. Yeah, keep an eye out for those. Okay. I still got Fanta bucks, too, so yeah, I need to spend them.
There you go. Look at you.
Look at me.
Got all the Fanta bucks.
I don't know about all of them. I have a couple. I did catch up. Gladly, I caught up on Absolute Wonder Woman. The most recent arc that ended with issue 12. It was titled "As My Mother's Made Me." It's a 5-part arc. We were introduced to Dr. Poison and Ferdinand and Petra the Siren and Clea, and maybe Diana isn't so alone after all. It was written by Kelly Thompson, of course, beautifully illustrated by Hayden Sherman. this was I loved this arc, and because we also see Diana kind of establishing a base of operations and bringing in Steve and Minerva's and you got Barbara, you've got Candy, the Candies and Barbara Minerva, and it's just that was neat. But then watching Diana trying to navigate this maze and bring people home, but then after you get past the credits in issue 12 and we see the Area 41 black site and what else they may have planned, I am, as someone who is on record as not, I mean, I'm not alone in this, but I am vehemently against bullies, and for someone to
Wait, is anyone pro bully though? Like...
No, but no, I don't think. Well, Vince might be pro bully. No, I think Vince. There are people who can appreciate a bully, understand their reasons for existence, and may not root for them, but want to see a hero overcome that obstacle. So they're a necessary evil, obviously. But I just, because they're bullies in real life. So I know we read comics to escape, but I don't just see. So anyway, just seeing somebody being manipulative and using another character that I'm a fan of and preparing to use them as a weapon against Diana in an upcoming story. I am not. I'm not happy about it. I mean, I'll be there to read it, obviously, but yeah, it's. I'm also kind of not really feeling this whole absolute evil that's going to be coming next month. Whereas I guess they're going to try to just judging by the image and the ad copy, it seems as though this is where they're going to bring all the absolute heroes together, because I guess the villains.
Agreed. Yeah. It feels way too early, and
it does.
I don't need a line wide crossover, y'all. I really don't.
Especially since, I mean, Wonder Woman is just an amazing. But I mean, even Batman is as well. But I mean, Absolute Wonder Woman on its own is just. Make it a black label, make it its own thing. Don't bother putting it in sort of continuity in any sort of other universe. But yeah, as long as I can keep riding this high, this wave with Absolute Wonder Woman, for as long as I can, I happily will. But yeah, this arc blew me away. It didn't start off slow, but it was one of those things where I'm just like, I was waiting for it to kind of pick up, and in the last 3 or so issues of the arc, that's when
I agree.
Really
I think
started.
10, 11, 12. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was and still, I mean, it's redundant at this point when we talk about his art and his panel layouts, and what was great about this particular arc is that Amaze was involved, and for him to be able to manipulate his panels and his layouts to kind of
for sure
reflect that. Oh my God, the man, he's just, I don't know what they're paying him, but it is definitely not enough.
That's right. Felix is making it up on the back end for him.
That's true. No, you're right. I mean, yes, that's awesome that he's getting his paper on his original art, but the people who he's working for, I don't feel are paying him enough. But I'm not his accountant, so he can fight those battles. There's just this was an absolutely banger of an arc. I have no idea what the next arc, or at least the next chapter, it's called The Price, is going to be about. But I can appreciate Kelly playing around with the mythos of Wonder Woman, and when you see whether it was in this book or seeing the body horror going on in Absolute Batman, and seeing what they did with Nigma, and how we still get, it's so fucked up how we still get a question mark with the Riddler, and it's just like, oh my, at first I thought maybe they were just going to take it to an extreme level and really flip the script and give us warped versions of characters just it's the absolute line, and we're just going to go crazy, like kind of what they did with the Ultimate line when it first started in the early aughts, and now I was worried that Absolute was going to kind of go in that direction where same names, it's just we're going to change it up just because we're going to go crazy, but things seem to be deliberate, and it looks like they actually have a plan. And I would have maybe preferred, for myself, I would have maybe preferred to have Batman's rogues not all kind of materialize at the same time. I understand it, and there's one reason for it, and the person who's pulling those strings, and that's fine, and he's fucking up Bruce's world, and cool, it's neat to see, but I would have liked to see, especially since they're his friends, I would have liked to see the rogues maybe paced out a little bit more. But I'm not writing the story. I'm going to read it and see where we go from here. But that was just one of those things where I just like, I don't think I needed to see the Penguin and the Riddler and Two-Face and Killer Croc like all one after another like that. But that's a me thing. But the Absolute Wonder Woman, I can't wait for this collection to come out because I've got the first hardcover right here. So as soon as the second one's solicited, I'm on it, and it's still I'm so, and I know that we got a couple of slackers who are getting on the train now because the collections are coming out, so they're finally going to experience what we've been talking about, and I'm glad that I am just still glad that Absolute Wonder Woman exists. It's still my it's a reason for me to continue to read comics. I love this book so much.
Yeah, no arguments from me on that. I mean, Kelly's amazing, Hayden's amazing, the book itself's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect. If all superhero comics were like that, the industry would be in a much different place.
Yes, I agree with you.
And I'm not saying, and for those that are, I'm not saying it's a bad place. In fact, we had a nice, interesting conversation on the Slack this week because someone posted a recent interview that Alan Moore did, and I guess Alan was on his typical shit talking about the industry and how bad it is, and he was portraying the industry as being completely like in the dumps, and I, of course, I took great issue with that, and it's like Alan's worldview is and has been frozen in time for when he walked away from comics, which is that he sees the world as controlled by the big two and only the big two, and so he always has an axe to grind with them, and he was kind of making it out to be like comics is doing terribly, and that's just not true at all. I mean, comics are comic sales this year are on pace to be slightly up from last year, which was still substantively higher than pre-pandemic, and the fact that the industry's held on to its pandemic boost is really impressive. And then that's to say nothing of the fact that yes, the big two superhero comics are at a nadir relative to other parts of the industry, but that's great. That's good news. Like it's always funny to me. Like people are like, oh man, like so Marvel and DC goes, so the industry goes. Like no, like not anymore. Like that's the point. We're not in that world anymore, and that's great. We've always said that's what we wanted. Like again, no shade to Marvel and DC. I still read plenty of those comics, and they're great when they're great. But like, didn't we always want a world where that we could have a vibrant ability to buy and read awesome books that even if Marvel and DC weren't super hot? And that's what we've got now. Like,
yep.
Marvel and DC are collectively not super hot right now, and yet stores are staying open, people are still eating, awesome comics are still coming out, we're still reading and talking about them, and that's awesome because you've got a million other ways that people can get their stories out, and a lot of those ways have matured, right? Like, crowdfunding is a mature, understandable, well-known business model now. You know, we've got tons of smaller press publishers that know how to get books out and do them economically, and in smaller print runs that make it viable for them to do so. Like, it's great news. And then that's to say nothing of the fact that manga is fucking on fire. YA is on fire. Like, stuff that like, those two things are just, they're absolutely, like, if you view comics as the collection of all sequentially illustrated stories, like, the industry is on absolute magma hot super fire. Like it's selling like crazy, both here in the US and all across the world. So like, yeah man, industry's in good shape, y'all. sincerely, and as someone who reads a shit ton of comics and likes to read lots of different comics, and also has to come on and talk to you folks every week for 17 years running. Like I'm psyched when there's lots of stuff to read and talk about, and we're in good shape. Don't worry, have no fear, people. Don't worry. You don't need to feel obligated to buy 17 Batman books and 14 Spider-Man books just to keep the industry alive. Just buy the one or two that you like to read them, and then try other shit. We're good.
Co-signed.
Yeah, it's like that's weird. It's just weird to me. Like people get like, people are always like, oh man, Diamond's so fucking terrible, and then Diamond goes away, and it's like, oh my god, look at Diamond gone. It's terrible now. It's like, I just think part of it is that, like, because comic fandom is driven in part, like, a lot of us were like different as kids. We were maybe a little shyer, or a little more reclusive, or a little nerdier. Like maybe some of us lacked confidence at that time. Like, I feel like we've always got like this sky is falling view of this hobby that we love, right? Like collectively, like we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yep.
And it's like, nah, dude, how about you just enjoy what's there, because it's there. And like, we know from our friendships in the industry, like I know way more people making comics these days that are paid, like with a capital P, than was the case when we started this podcast.
Yep.
Like when we started this podcast, most people either made comics out of a passion for them and were broke, or they worked at the big two and hopefully rose up enough that they got pretty decent livings. We know lots of people that don't put pen or ink to a big two book ever that are legit millionaires. Like, and we know lots of them. Like, I mean, many. Like, I'm not gonna blow up their spot. Like, I'm not gonna pocket watch them on the air. But like, I could make you a list of 50 creators that I know, that we know personally, that are like millionaires from this business. So like, it's like we're all fine, people. It's fine. It's all good. Everybody's eating. Like, relax, everybody. Like, if the publishers are struggling, like, don't worry. They're corporations, right? Like,
right.
What do you like? What, like, do you really care if a corporation, like they'll figure it out? And that's the other thing. Like, Marvel and DC are parts of massive media companies. They'll be okay. Like, they're not going away. Like they'll be all right. They can make payroll, I assure you. Like sincerely, if Avengers isn't selling 100,000 copies, they will make payroll.
That's never not. Yeah, don't. I mean, fine. You want to worry about an editor? Okay, cool. But like, yeah, the
sure. Oh yeah, sure. I mean, if you're friends with someone, yeah, I'm not saying people aren't like. Listen, I mean, and listen, I mean, all jokes aside, I mean, the Diamond thing was very disruptive, right? Lots of small press publishers are unfortunately suffering financial difficulties and having to make layoffs, and that sucks, absolutely, especially because a lot of those publishers are the ones I care about the most. But what I'm saying is, again, like, the holistic idea, right? Like you couldn't go a week without someone complaining about Diamond for decades, and now they're gone, and it's like, now you can't go a week without people saying, "Oh, see, look, Diamond's gone. It's a mess." It's like, okay, well, yes, I mean, any transition is hard, like, yep. It's and again, let's be fair here. The reason the transition is hard is because Diamond really fucked up. This isn't a case of people like things were fine when Lunar existed, and then PRH existed, and Diamond existed. The reason things are like bad right in this moment is because Diamond fucked up and went bankrupt, and in like a really terrible way, right? And so it left everybody in the lurch. Like, it has nothing to do with like if you want to be mad about Diamond going away, be mad at Diamond, because yep. they're the one who ran their business into the ground, right? Like, they had 6 years of that transition to adjust their business model, and didn't do so. But last time I checked, Steve Geppi still owns like 5 mansions and still drives like a Ferrari. So I think he's good. Like, again, like Geppi's eating. It's all the people that worked for him that aren't. Like, so be mad at Geppi. Be mad at Diamond.
Yeah,
like,
100%. Yeah. I mean,
like, and again, I'm not trying to glaze for Lunar. Like, I mean, obviously, we've had a great relationship with Christina forever. She was, she and Cam were sponsors of the show for a decade plus. And I, my adoration and respect for them as people and business owners is in no way different now that they're not a sponsor, and we've moved on to Max. But like, so I'm not glazing here, but like, it cracks me up when I see the visceral. I guess it's like whoever wears the crown, right? Like I see so many people like bitching about like PRH and Lunar as though they somehow like caused all this. Like they did not cause this. Like that's crazy. Like they,
so
like
you just
Lunar,
have to pick. You need a bad guy. You just then.
Yeah, like Lunar didn't exist. It wasn't like Christina and Cam were in like back channel meetings at cons, being like, hey, DC Marvel, how about you let us be your distributor? Like they were not doing that. Like they literally were totally fine doing their very successful business of selling comics directly to people like me and you, right? Like they were doing great. They were doing just fine. And then the pandemic happened, and DC and Marvel decided to move on from Diamond. Like it's that simple. Like it really is that simple. And people probably forget that like when that first happened, it wasn't just DCBS and Lunar. It was Lunar and Midtown. And Midtown like tried it for what, like 3 months, and was like,
Yeah,
fuck
yeah.
this. Like,
It was just
too hard. It's too hard. And
which of course then gave Homeboy a reason to bitch, tilting a windmills guy.
Yeah, like and then to the Merklers' immense credit, they fucking did it. They figured out how to do it. And it's like I don't know. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it just seems weird to me. Like it seems like we as fans always want to have villains. We always want to like be worried that the shit we love is going away. It's not going away, y'all. Like yes, the specific like micro thing you love may go away, right? Like pick whatever comic you love, that may go away, right? Like the small press publisher you love, that may go away, sure. Like, but comics as a whole is never going away, ever, ever, ever. It's never going away as a medium. We're always going to have awesome things to read and talk about. Always. Rejoice.
Like Christina woke up and was like, I need new stress in my life. Let me become a distributor.
For reals. And again, I'm not like they're doing great, and they are wildly more successful now doing this than they were when they were doing DPS, and they were already massively successful. But I do honestly, in my heart of hearts, believe it was well earned, because it wasn't fucking easy.
I do too. Yeah.
It was not easy.
No.
Like and you know how people are. Like they think like, oh, like they got so lucky. No, they did not get lucky.
No.
They there are people that I've known in my life. And doing what I do for my day job, I've had the privilege of knowing many, many very successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, publicly traded companies, and the like. There are just some people that are innately good at both hustling and executing, and it's not a lot of people that are good at that can like pull it off. And the Merklers are just naturally good at it. They had no formal training in all of this. Like they were just a married couple that thought they could make some extra money distributing comics online, right? Like that's all it was. It's a tiny small business as a means to supplement their income, and just through hustle and tough lessons and taking shots to the body blows and bouncing back, like they fucking figured it out, and now they're the biggest distributor in the industry. And like, but if you look at it from the lens of like the 20 plus years that I've known them, it has not been linear or easy or a guarantee at any point.
For sure.
So I do honestly, again, I'm not glazing here. But I think in my heart of hearts, I deserve an immense amount of credit, and it just chaps my ass when I feel like every week I'm seeing some article on one of the sites like Comics Beat or Bleeding Cool, and it's always got to like take some shot at like the current status quo and like, woe is us, the Diamond is gone. It's like, nah, fuck that. Like,
yeah.
The problem is that Diamond is gone. The problem is that Diamond died like of a heart attack instead of like withering away. That's the problem.
And that's I mean, it was, and the whole. I mean, not to relitigate history, but it's we know that this all happened because Marvel bought Heroes World, and that caused other companies to sign with Capital City, and then eventually Capital City just went away, and that left. And that left Diamond and Heroes. And then once Marvel could no longer sustain that because Toy Biz and everything else was just eating them all up, then all you had left was Diamond. So we had a monopoly. So we had one person, we had one company distributing all the comics. And that, I mean, I'm kind of surprised it lasted as long as it did. But previews was never designed for us anyway. Like we're not supposed to know all of that stuff. We're just supposed to know.
And make no mistake, I miss previews. I love previews. I read
Yeah.
previews
Well,
for 20 years every month.
It's the wish. It's the wish catalog.
Selfishly, I miss it, but we're good though. Still, like I've adapted. Like again, is it annoying to have to pull 11 different catalogs down and read them? Yeah, but like I'm already. It took like a month to figure out how to do it. Now I'm doing it. Like
yeah.
Like
Lunar site is great.
You've
got them all right there. Yeah, no, it's
in the Slack. We always every month I do a deep dive on all the things. It used to be a deep dive on previews, but now it's a deep dive of all the catalogs and what I'm planning on pre-ordering. And it took like 1 month to figure out how to get all the stuff and make sure I covered all the bases. And now we're back in business and we're good. The thread still exists. It's all good. Like we're adaptable creatures. We really are if we give ourselves some credit.
We're handling it.
Yeah. There are bigger stresses in the world, people.
That's for sure. That is absolutely true.
That's for sure.
Shit.
I mean, seriously.
There was one. So before we get to in your travels, there was one. It was one weird. It was a 3-issue miniseries. It was published by Oni. It's called Benjamin, and it's written by Ben H. Winters, art by Leo Max, which is why I wanted to check it out.
Oh, nice! I was gonna say I never heard of the series, but
it's a 3-issue mini. I don't know if it's been solicited as a collection yet. It is, I said, Oni Press, and covers by Christian Ward. Covers are kind of neat, but basically, I'm not sure where it was kind of. I thought it was going in a different direction, but we're introduced to. Where was I just had it? I hate the way I hate the way things are laid out on my machine sometimes. All right, let me do it this way. It's my turn for dead air. So the first issue. Well, we're introduced to we're in Los Angeles. There's a motel room, and this dude is rudely awakened in his in the hotel room. Has no idea what the hell's going on, and a couple people barge into the motel room, and he's the guy who was in the room claims to be a man of consequence. He's not some derelict, and he really has no idea kind of who he is. Just that he's supposed to be important, but he is he looks just like a science fiction writer that the hotel clerk, that his dad used to read his books, and turns out that it's Benjamin J. Karp who is the person who was in the motel room, and he's a wordy motherfucker. He's a very verbose dude. There's the term science fiction is a slur deployed by the literary establishment to marginalize artists with the stones to challenge the hyper-capitalist ethos. Having said that, I'd love to meet this dad of yours. He sounds like a smart cat. And so Marcus, the motel clerk, and Benjamin now seem to be friends. But Marcus is like, you can't be Karp because Karp is dead. And he's like, well, that's not true. I'm sitting here across the table from you eating breakfast. And no, turns out that Marcus brings up his Wikipedia entry. And Benjamin J. Karp wrote 144 novels, 21 short stories, won numerous prizes, including the Hugo, Nebula, is considered to be a cult classic. He had 5 marriages. There have been adaptations into television and film. But Karp is convinced that this is just riddled with inaccuracies, and cult classic is the definition of a backhanded compliment. And he's trying to figure out what year this is, because the last thing he remembers is he was working on a novel, he was on a tear, he was in the zone, and then he grabs his heart and everything goes black. So the next thing he remembers is waking up in this motel room, and then that's when we go on this crazy wild ride, and Marcus gets dragged along with him, and Benjamin's just trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. And I'm not going to go into it any further, but it's a cute story. The art's great. That doesn't really, I guess, need to be said since it's Leo Max, but it's a wild ride. It is. I'm still kind of not really sure on if I like the way it concluded or not. But it's one of those things where I enjoyed the journey. Maybe not the destination so much, but I had fun with it, and just Benjamin's trying to figure out like maybe how to get back to the way things were. So there's this whole kind of montage of him trying to commit suicide and trying to maybe like reset, and just things really aren't working out for him. The Marcus is getting, like I said, Marcus got dragged into this. But yeah, I mean, it's wild. I don't know what I was expecting with it. It was just one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to just see what the hell this is about, give it a shot. But yeah, it does not end the way I ever expected it to end, but it made for a nice diversion, and it was unlike anything else that I'm reading, whether it's anything from the big two or Image or Dark Horse or just anything else. I just figured I'd give it a shot. But it was interesting, and I'd be curious to know if anybody else has read it, what they think of it. But yeah, it was a thing. It was definitely a comic book, but I don't know. It starts off it had me so hyped.
Horse and pictures.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's I'm sure it's stapled, but yeah, it was one of those things where I'm just like, I got to see where this is going. It's like, oh, this is where it went. Okay, that's cool. It was a story, but yeah, I don't know. So yeah, should we go right to new travels? Or you got anything else?
Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah.
All right. So thank you as always, folks, for putting up with us, for listening to this. This has been episode 1001 in your travels. This was suggested. I decided to finally dive into this, thanks to Jefferson. It is Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor. It's written by Mark Waid. It is illustrated by Brian Hitch and Kevin Nolan with David Barron on colors. It is a black label book, and I'm saying that because at first I thought it was in continuity. I thought it was just a standalone little miniseries by Waid that was part of what's going on in the current world of Superman. It is not. It has nothing. It is not tied to any continuity at all. It is not. It is not some vague sequel to Birthright or anything that Waid has done regarding pertaining to Superman. So this is truly the last days of Lex Luthor. There's no lying in this title. There's no bait and switch. It's not a hoax, not an imaginary tale, folks. It's not what if. This is basically the last story for Lex Luthor, and or at least in this particular universe. There are parts of it that reminded me of whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, the final pre-crisis Superman run that Alan Moore wrote that signaled the end of that right before Byrne did his reboot. There are things that there are still things that are true to the origins where not the Byrne origin, because Clark and Lex both knew each other in school in Smallville. And for some of the story, there are moments where, because of their friendship and their relationship, and how Lex kind of tolerated Clark because he's still some dumb hick farmer from Kansas. There's this cute little thing where Lex would call Clark McDonald, as an old McDonald had a farm, and anytime he would say, "Hey McDonald," Clark would say "E-I-E-I-O," and that was their thing. And Lex is convinced, he's certain that there has to be intelligence in this universe, and he can't be saddled with being the smartest person on this planet. There's got to be intelligent life out there. And there were moments where Clark almost fessed up and bared his secret to Lex, and Lex would always say something or do something that would give Clark a reason to keep that secret to himself. But yes, lo and behold, Lex is dying because Lex was fucking around with kryptonite again, and it irradiated him, and his cellular structure is in rapid decay, and in order for Lex to get Superman's attention, he's attacking an island, he's attacking a civilization, and Superman saves the day, and as if like there was this why did you need to get my attention? And that's when Lex says, well, use your microscopic X-ray vision, check out my body, you can tell me if I'm lying. And sure enough, so this is being broadcast, and even though Lex is dying and Superman is sympathetic, he says, "I'm sorry to hear that," and he says, "That's what I want, that signature Superman compassion. The whole world is going to be dancing in the streets when they hear the news that Lex Luthor is dying, but not you. And I'm banking on Superman won't let me die." And he says, "Listen," he says, before Superman says, "I will help you," he says, we need to keep this between us, Lex." And Lex is like, "Yeah, too late." Because the whole world now knows. And now, so now you have people who are like, wait, Superman's going to help Lex? Without realizing that that's what Superman does, but they still don't want Superman to save this one particular person. And I don't really blame them, but that's not Superman. So now Superman is going to spend time trying to save Lex, and he brings Lex to Kandor, and Lex is just like, "Well, this is bullshit, because I thought you were the last son of Krypton. How the hell do you have a bunch of Kryptonians?" And so he brings him to Kandor. First, he brings him to the fortress because, listen, obviously that's where Kandor is, but he's going to see if there's anything there that can save him. Brings him to Kandor, sends him to the Phantom Zone, and Zod sends Lex back because he's just, once Zod does not want, he's just, when Superman brings Lex to the Phantom Zone and you're pretty much a phantom, you can kind of will yourself to be tangible, and when they send Superman back to Kandor, and Lex and Superman's like, "I'm going to leave Lex here because he'll be able to." It's almost like you're in stasis. You won't continue to decay if you're here, and but once Lex sends Superman back out of the Phantom Zone, Zod's like, "Well, you're gonna regret that," and Lex is like telling Zod, "Listen, let's just chill, because once Superman figures out a way to save me, he'll have to come back. Then we can all attack Superman." And so I was like, bro, I'm not here for your games. Like, I don't need your help. And so everybody in all the prisoners in the Phantom Zone basically shove Lex back out of the Phantom Zone. So Kandor's a no-go. Nobody can save him there. He checks out everything. He goes to Zatanna. They go to Adam Strange. He goes to the future, to the Legion, and this is where things get a little tricky because you don't want to know. Like Lex could just find a computer in the 31st century and just be like, well, how did Lex Luthor die? And Superman is careful to not call Vril Brainiac because he doesn't want Lex to know that there's any connection between the Brainiac that Lex knows and the great grandson. It was the art's great because Hitch we've been loving on Redcoat these days, but the addition of Kevin Nolan is just elevates the work. He brings them to Paradise Island, and Wonder Woman's just like, how dare you? Like this man who's caused you nothing but trouble your entire life. You're trying to save him, and you want me to help you save him. And then there's a great once Superman leaves Lex with her. There's just some great moments between Lex and Diana, and also involving the lasso. He brings them to Atlantis, and that's where we see Lori Lemaris again, and we find out, we kind of relive their relationship. Wade hit all the greatest hits. But yeah, when we finally get towards the end, and there's some revelations, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's just there are moments where you're thinking, Lex is still going to pull something out, like this is all just still some ploy, and he's not being honest, and he's doing this because he wants to trick Superman. Brainiac shows up. It's crazy. I mean, Wade went all out here. It's a great read. I absolutely recommend it. I'm not saying I got choked up, but there are moments in this issue in this book where that remind me about why I like Superman, what about the character that draws me to him, why Lex is such a great foil. Like he's not Dr. Doom, he's not the Joker, he's not your traditional rogue. Yes, obviously he thinks he's the smartest man in the room all the time, and he's selfish and he's entitled, and he hates Superman for a very silly reason, but he doesn't always do things just to necessarily benefit him, and that's kind of hidden in this story for the most part. But when I think about other stories involving Lex and Superman, it reminded me of that. But seeing how the day is saved at the end is pretty cool. It was and you could tell it's a Black Label book. You could tell it's its own story because it ends in a way that you wouldn't expect a Superman story to end. So, TLDR, check out The Last Days of Lex Luthor by Wade, Hitch, and Nolan and Barron. I know that the gang said that. Or I believe Jefferson said it was an evergreen. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's definitely a Superman story that I'm glad I read, and I think should be on your shelf next to those great Superman stories. So yeah, in your travels, Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor.
There you go. Breaking news: Depp enjoyed a Superman comic.
It could happen where I don't. You never know. We'll find that day.
Maybe. I heard this one was a good one, though, actually. Very good. I mean, Wade is dude. I've said it many times the last few years. Wade, listen, he's a little curmudgeonly. We've had our dalliances trying to get him on the show, and then, finally had to write him off because he blew us off. He said yes, and then asked to reschedule 4 or 5 different times, and I was like, all right, enough. But anyway, putting personal grievances aside, he is, I think, he's top 5 all time superhero writer.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
He's because of breadth and depth. He's got them both. He's got phenomenal stories with many characters. He's one of the few that we would put into that category that have done seminal works on both sides of the aisle, and he's fucking been doing it forever, dude. He's still
he knows the history.
Think of how many people in his peer group are now the old heads at cons that lament how they don't get hired anymore, and he's still crushing big books.
Yeah,
and because the quality's there. So I tip my cap to the dude. All jokes aside about you loving Superman, Wade is an absolute beast. And what he's been doing at DC this last few years feels inspired. Every book he does feels energetic and fun. And yeah, I mean, he doesn't break new ground per se, but I always say superhero comics, you can do one of two things. You can either do something completely unexpected and surprising, which is awesome when it happens, but it's really hard to do because these characters have been written for so long. Or you can do what we all expect you to do, but execute it flawlessly. And that's where he does. That's where he lives. He just executes these characters and stories flawlessly, and thus making them worth reading. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. My Union travels a very, very different pocket of the comics universe. It is World Within World, and it is the full title is World Within World, the Collected Short Comics with an X, 2010 to 2022, by Julia Gfrörer. Now, I had to look up how to say her name because it is a very strange, well, not strange, but it's unusual to me spelling. Her last name is Gfrörer. I believe it's German, but I did look it up, and she says that she prefers her name to be pronounced Gfrörer. So Julia Gfrörer. This is published through Fantagraphics, of course, and it is a collection of her work over that time span. So what's that? It's like a 12, 13-year time span. It's 30 short stories and graphic works, and most of it was self-published in zines and small press anthologies. Most of the stuff is either out of print or very rare. So this is kind of the first time that most of us, myself included, have gotten to read much of her career. The title "World Within World" kind of speaks to what the anthology is ultimately about. Again, it's a retrospective of a big chunk of her career. So I don't know that there's necessarily a clear through line in every story in the same way. But I would say that the reason that she titled it this ties into the fact that the very first page of the story, the very first page of the book itself, is a one-pager that she did called "World Within the World," and it's incredibly dense. This is one of those things where you open up the first page of the book and you're thinking oh boy, because it's on one page is 60 panels, 60, and my old ass eyes were like, oh no, I can't read this. I'm not gonna be able to read this. This is crazy. But as you find out, it's by design. It's 60 panels compressed on a one page for a purpose, and it's the one pager is a conversation between Julia as a character and a 17th century Jesuit scholar named Athanasius Kircher, and they're having this conversation. And at one point, he says to her, "All rooms are dangerous." And that kind of sets the tone that ultimately, what she's trying to work through for a big chunk of her career, at least the part with which we see in this book, is that any space is, has danger because it's got, even if it seems relatively innocuous, there is depth to it, and there's threat, and there's hidden, there's dark parts of a room. There's just things. There's unknowns in any space that you're in. And on this one page story, as they're having this conversation, the panels begin to darken, the margins begin to get frayed, and it kind of, I think, just beautifully sets the tone for what we're going to get in the subsequent couple hundred pages. And then we just go from there with different stories. And again, each one is different. Like I said, there's not like, there's one where it's like, I think it's called Dark Age, where there's a man and a woman, and they're spelunking, they're exploring some kind of cave, setup, and they're also like clearly in love. They're making out, they're having sex, they're going deeper into the cave, and things are pretty benign for a while. They're kind of just like frolicking and doing their thing, but then like they end up getting stuck in the cave. She's able to escape, but he can't because he's too big. So she's like, I'll go back and get help. And then, to Julia's credit, and I don't know that I've seen this many times if ever, to illustrate how long he's stuck in this cave by himself, she gives us like 7 or 8 pages of just black panels. Like they're just black, like they're just black panels. It's like she's basically almost like a blackout tattoo, to try and just get you like your mind to be thinking about how he's just stuck in this lonely darkness for a long time, before he may or may not get rescued. I'll leave that to those of you that pick up the book. But and then there's like there's a story called Tartarus, which is set in the future, and it's basically there's like this art installation where that's supposed to represent like hell, and there are people that seemingly volunteer to be a part of this this art installation, but then things go wrong because it's driven by AI, of course, and things go astray. And again, it deals with, like, the story itself deals with like the idea of like total blackness and like the abyss. And so you can see like there's these running themes that are in her work. And I actually sought out an interview from the Comics Journal, shout out to TCJ, after reading this to try and get a vibe for her. And like she's just like her whole vibe is just dark and gloomy. Like she said in the article, she says, I don't think I could make a nice book if I wanted to. It's just her nature, like she's obsessed with darkness and the underground and kind of like the black spaces of life. And so, this book is not a feel good, happy book by any stretch. Now her illustration style, she is, meticulously, like, she does tons and tons of lines, single weight black line work. She actually is not a fan of color comics. She thinks the coloring often takes away from the line work. She thinks it actually can I think she said, I'm paraphrasing here, but I think she said in the interview I read that color often skews the work in a way that's unintended by the original source material. Now again, I don't know that, like, I'm sure for plenty of people they work as color work is very much a part of their process, but for her it's not. She says that her goal with all of her work is to depict like the difficult or violent content without judgment or narrative disclaimer, which reminded me of Vince. Like she said, basically because real life doesn't always offer guidance on how to respond to suffering. So 2 things. One, you need to be in the right frame of mind to read this book. If you're not feeling great about yourself or the world or life in general, wouldn't say this is the book to pick up and read in the moment. But if you're feeling like you had a pretty good week and maybe just got laid and life's good, this is a book definitely worth your time. It's absolutely gorgeous in a dark way. She's an incredibly talented storyteller. It's a big book. I mean, it's a couple hundred pages. Let me see here. I think it's it's over 300 pages, and it's a Fantagraphics hardcover, so you're getting a great value. And I'm really glad that I was able to get a glimpse into her career. I'd heard of her name, I'd seen her name around, but I really hadn't. I don't think I've ever read anything, or I don't remember ever reading before. So definitely, again, another Fanta to throw into the queue there for all of you that are saving up those Fanta bucks. So once again, in your travels, check out World Within World, the collected short comics by Julia Gfrörer.
Nice little FANTA-O-RAMA.
FANTA-O-RAMA. As is often the case with me these days, if we're being honest.
No problem there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you finish up this second season of Don to Don?
No, is the second season wrapped?
Yes.
Okay, no, then I will binge it then. Because once I knew that they were weekly, I was like, I need to. I'll wait till either I was going to wait till the season ended, or at least there were a few that I could sit through. So now that
That's how I feel about British Baking Championship. Kills me that it's every week. Like I know it's always been like that, and
yeah,
every time it comes back, I forget that, and then I'm like, ugh,
right.
I gotta wait. Come on, dog.
I still think I would love what I love and hate that show, because I would love it because you always have, and this is the kind of talk the comic fans are here for. What I love about
They're here for all of it.
I wish that all 12 contestants were there throughout the entire season, and there was a point system, so that because
right.
the person who fucks up biscuits may kill it on bread, but because they already left the show, we'll never know. So I'd rather everybody be able to do what they do. Everybody's there for the entire season, and then based on then you get the points. I mean, of course,
I think that's true of all of those cooking reality shows, because the same thing, like inevitably by the end of the season, you have 2 or 3 people, and it just feels very empty.
Yep.
Like the room is empty. It feels to me anticlimactic in a lot of ways. Which is not to say it's not a huge triumph for whoever ends up winning the thing, but I'm with you. Like, it's much more fun in the early part of any season. The same goes for Top Chef or Master Chef. Like, when you're seeing lots of people cooking and you're getting lots of feedback and you're seeing who fucked up and who didn't, and it's like, by the end it's like 2 or 3 people, and chances are they're not going to fuck anything up. Not that like I'm rooting for the fuck up, but like it's just a matter of like who is just like, it's like whoever survives the gauntlet, and then it's like, all right, those 3 of you are going to have a chance, and like whichever one of you doesn't mess up at all that day is
yeah. The I mean, and maybe some of the shows have realized that, and that's why you either bring back the chefs to be their sous chef, and obviously at the end of British Bake Off, you have everybody coming to the tent so you can see the big reveal, but it still doesn't have that same feeling of watching the judges go around to everyone. Because when you get to the end, and it's just like, you have your 3 or 4 people, and it's just like, well, you're gonna, and then you end up spending more time on whatever they're working on because you're not talking to as many people, and it's like I don't necessarily need to see 20 minutes of the same dude decorating the cake if I could see another 4 or 5 people doing the same thing. So, but
yeah, agreed completely. Yeah,
they've been doing it long enough. I guess they know what they're doing. But yeah, it's
it's like do bread week in week 1, not week 10, because I don't need to watch someone proofing their dough for 15 minutes.
That's yes, that's a great point. Yeah. Although he screwed him with the first. Well, he didn't screw him, but he threw a curveball with the first technical. And he gave them the finished product. And it was basically a palate challenge. It was just like, if you can tell me what's in this, if you could tell me if it's ground almonds, if it's almond flour, if it's almond extract or whatever. And it's like, and so there were no instructions. You just had to bake. You had to build it. You had to make it based on what you just ate. And I was like, wow, that's cool. You did that the first week with everybody. Like, you couldn't even wait for somebody to be a bit more established, But they really seemed to be really kind of giving them a good challenge, giving them good challenges this season. It's like these aren't home chefs. These seem to be people who are ready to kind of like almost start their own goddamn business, because they have to be better than the people who were there when the series kind of started years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's like anything. I mean, it's like and I think in a cooking or like an athletic show, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't, like, the learning curve doesn't matter, but you'll see that on like shows like Survivor, or I mean, not any of the others like that, like where they've been on for so long now that the people that compete are experts in how to play that game. Like, it's a totally different thing than like season 1, where it's a complete like social experiment. Nobody knows the rules. Nobody knows what to expect. They're just themselves trying to get through it. Now, like, people just know all the nuances of how to win these games because they've seen it. So I do, in a way, I'm sure it does even things like Bake Off because these people have watched the show for a decade, so they know like they got to practice things, like they know, like they know the kind, like they know they're going to have a week and a cake week. So if they're not strong at one of those things, they know they can. So it does change the dynamic. I agree. But there's nothing you can do about that, right? Like that's just part of the natural evolution of all these experiences.
Right. Yeah. Because everybody's always talking about how, my kids are so tired of eating my avocado cookies, and it's like because I've been baking them for 6 months because I knew I was going to be on the show, and it's like, good for you for. I mean, hell, you were on the show. You did more than I'm ever going to do. So I mean, I'm take the accolades for that. Oh man. And on that note, I'm going to go clean the kitchen. So thank you for listening to this, everybody.
Love you all. Hollywood and Prue.
So we will be back next week with more exciting stuff. As always, leave us a review wherever you find us, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcatcher, Podchaser, wherever. YouTube. We're not, no judging. So hit us up over on patreon.com/11o'clockcomics. You can find Jason and I on Instagram. You can find EOC on Instagram. You can find EOC on Blue Sky. You can just do a search. Go to 11o'clockcomics.com. All the links are there, as well as all of our past episodes. Thank you for listening to this, and good night.
Peace.
That's it for that one.